So we're going to talk about the skeletal structure, the bone structure, basically rigging. And when it comes to rigging, like I said, rigging is one of the aspects of modeling that requires on a lot of precision. It requires a lot of precision because depending on how complex you want the model to be or its reaction or behavior, especially when it comes to facial constructs, rigging becomes very critical because you need to rig or create bones for every singular muscle that will be twitched in the face. You have to create rigs for every bone that will be moved, every joint that will be moved. If it's hair, definitely you will create hair that is adaptable to movement. So anything, if it's a car, then you rig the tires with the body. You rig, so rigging generally has to be creating a skeletal structure that we use to animate our objects. It's you can't animate, for instance, let's say this guy. Uh, we can't animate him as he is without a structure, a bone structure. Because in rigging, we are not, the key is not to mess up with the mesh itself. We never touch like the ear now. You never meant or physically bend the ear or bend the hand or raise the legs. What we do is we create controls that bend the bone inside the leg. The leg follows that bone. So when you rig your object, you bind the skin, that's the mesh, to the bone, and then you control it and make it like just like a puppet does. So if you are creating a character, you have to make sure that all, and that's why when we're creating the characters, we like make sure that the geometry is seamless, make sure that it's flowing. Like this now, you can see that there's a loop from here going down. There's a loop, a consistent looping of the object. Because without a concise looping, it will be very difficult to move the object without it twitching. Okay. So the primary purpose of having a character when you're rigging is you try to have um, it standing in T stance or A stance. So let me show you an example of, okay, we already see a T stance. This bunny is in T stance. Yeah, it's already doing a T pose. So, so the A stance will be this one. This is an A stance where the hands are not very spread out from the character. But whenever you're modeling, always look for references, either in T or A stance, but most importantly, the legs must be separated. Don't do a model where the legs are connected together or where the hands are like this, flat together. So even if you are building this model, for instance, this robots, the good thing is the hand, like who? I have no idea. so, so the good thing is it has a hand side view. All right. Once you create the hand and you measure it with the side view, keep it in a T stance or an A stance. Don't let it be like this before you bind it, because the problem you have if you bind this robot, the skeleton to the skin, is because the hand is too close to the body. When you move the hand, it will drag part of the body with it. It's so the reason why we ask for that C stance is or A stance is it keeps the hand further away from the body. Although A stance is not as good as T stance, T stance is always the best. This modeling will be very bad. So if you are going to do this character, this was the original, then I made a copy of it that had, I used lines to measure it up. So let me start pointing out problems with this character. The head, perfect, right? The nose point, perfect. The chin point, perfect. The shoulder point, perfect. This perfect. Here is not perfect. The nipple point. This is this nipple point. This is nipple point. But the lower chest, perfect. Then the elbow, perfect. The side of uh, the hips, or yeah, ha. Excuse me. What do you mean? What did you just say? Have you eaten today? I, I guess, I guess you're hungry. What? What? This and this one. Guy, this one is the hip bone. This is her skin. Guy. Oh, in fact, don't just leave him. I think he's hungry. Okay. So now then the knee connection is also wrong here because this is supposed to be top of the knee here, but it's middle of the knee here. This is middle of the knee, this one is lower. Then the legs, this is the division for the feet, which is lower here. Then the feet are not gone. So that first problem you might have, but it's not too much of a big problem as the fact that her legs are close together. So if you model this lady, or if you ever want to model this lady, the best thing is after you've modeled the leg, tilt it, give it that opening stance. Once you've gotten the shape of the leg, open up the legs so that it will open up when you mirror it, so that it is open. Don't model it because I can bet you once you bind a skeleton to this skin, you will not be able to separate these two legs. Yeah, you just look like a fish. So this is a better pose for legs. It must be open. And look at like this one now. She has the hand closed and then the hand in A stance. So if I'm modeling, obviously we'll only model one hand and mirror the other hand, right? So this is a good this thing. I use this model to create a character once. I don't know whether I will have that this time. So always use C stance. They are better than A stance. Better than A stance. So let me go back. All right. So let's me take us into um, our drill for today. It's the skeleton and the rigging concept. I want to go into my modeling tool set, which is for rigging. I'm changing from modeling to rigging. I can also change my shelf to rigging as well, at least just for now, so that we see some primary stuffs in the rigging points. Mike, please don't make those kind of funny statements again. Since those things off they off our mentality. Yes, of course it did. Yeah, I will not edit it. It's all right. So mm, no, from next year, all the that's when I'll market the channel. This year I don't want to market it yet. Mm. So yeah, if we don't market it, I've already had a channel that had almost 1 million views, but it was shared with another company, so I had to break out, start all over again. So I'm recreating this, but I wasn't marketing this because for me to market the video, I'm have to be ready to be uploading constantly, weekly, or twice or three times a week. So it's from next year that I'll have the opportunity to do that. Then I can do that. All right. So and many of the videos that were recording for this class will be private videos. After you guys finish, I'll private them. Only students from my place will have that. Mm. Yeah, I know unlisted is an option. Okay, so skeletons, they are very easy to create. First rule, just like when creating NURBS, do not create them in your perspective view. Never ever do that. It's because it will read it wrongly. So create them in any of the other views, preferably your front or side view, or both of them. Um, Skeletons are splines generally. They are like lines, so they don't render. So, well, go into either your side view or your front view. So let me go to the side view and introduce us to the skeletal structure. So here in our menu, we have skeleton, and we have create joints, insert, mirror, orient, remove, connect, disconnect, reroute, joint labeling, uh, IK handles, and other stuff. And then at the bottom, we have quick rig and the human IK menu, which is already here. Have it here. So, then we have skin. Skin is where we deal with the geometry and the skeleton. So buying skin and stuff like that. Then pruning of your weights and stuff. Okay. So to create a joint, uh, you can create from instance either by clicking on the joints tool here, create joints, or coming from here. Uh, Preferably, you may want to check up the settings of your joints because sometimes it could be weird on your model. So you have to check the settings, or you could set it up later. That is, just double click on the joints and the tool settings appear. So here we have degrees of freedom, X, Y, and Z axis. We want our joints to be free on all the axes. Any joint you are creating that should not be free on a particular axis, you turn off that axis before you create the joint. Symmetry, usually don't ever turn it on. For this particular one, it's never smart to create joints in symmetry. Create one first and then mirror it. So all these other options, you leave them the way they are. This create IK handle, it allows Maya create an IK handle when you create a certain number of joints. But don't check it because there are two types of IK handles. I'll explain them today, what they mean. There are two types of IK handles. Maya can choose the wrong one for you, and so don't click it. Rather, we have scale compensates, variable bone radius settings, or checked on. Then orientation settings, orient joint to world or primary axis X, Y, Y. The way joints are built, they are not meant to face uh, the y-axis, that is up, because definitely they run different um, directions on the body. So the primary axis for a joint will usually be preferably the x-axis because that is horizontal. No matter how the joint runs, it uses x as a primary because it's not really running how do I say, horizontal to the world. It's usually running vertically to the world. So it's going downwards or upwards, but not left to right. You don't create joint. If you stand now, your bones are not facing up. They are facing different, your front or your sides, based on the way they are oriented. So typically you want to use x-axis, but in case your spirit tells you otherwise, you can change. So change your primary axis and your secondary axis. Secondary axis could be y. Then this other one, bone radius. The bone radius is when you create a joint, it looks like this. There's like something like this. Then there's a triangle like this. So in almost every software, this is how your joint will look like. So the what the software is seeing as the joints primarily is not this triangle, is that circle. That's the primary part of the joint. This triangle usually shows the direction the joint is going through. That is the hierarchy direction of the joint. So when they talk about short bone length, that is the length of this triangle. Then bone radius is the size of that circle. So for instance, if I take my joint and click anywhere, you see it creates the circle first. By the time I click on another point, it creates another circle, but now you see an arrow or a triangle pointing towards the next joint, telling me that the order of hierarchy is this joint is controlling this joint. Make another joint, you see another arrow telling me that now this joint is controlled by this one is controlled by this. That's the order of the hierarchy. And if you look into your outliner, Maya is automatically creating the parent-child relationship with joints. That's one cool thing about joints. Maya or any other software you're using naturally creates the hierarchy level of your joints. So whether it's in Blender or Cinema 4D or 3ds Max or whatever the case, even Animate, Adobe Animate or Adobe After Effects, whatever software. Once you are creating joints, it creates a hierarchy for you. So just like with every other spline, once you are done with your joint creation, you just hit enter and the software accepts that you have created a joint. So if I select these joints now, I can move this point and it moves on its own, but it's still connected to this guy. I can't move this guy without moving the joint. If I want to move him, I can click this one and move, and that one is controlling this one and this one. But then this one is controlling all three of them. So that's how the hierarchy of joint is. So the secret is just follow the way the arrows are going, and you will know how the hierarchy is built. In a situation where probably this was not how I wanted the joints to end, maybe I wanted to add uh, more bones to this structure, to add more bones. I can click on my joint tool again. I come here. Since the tool is the last selected tool, is the one showing here, Maya has a shortcut. To access your last selected tool or whatever tool is showing here that is not highlighted, you either press the Y key or the G key on your keyboard and it will trigger up the previously selected tool. Okay. Now I want to continue from here. All I do is I click on that joint again, that previous joint or the last joint that was clicked on, and then I can continue creating more joints. And naturally, Maya just keeps creating joints, adding them to the previous joint. Excuse me. And if I create a joint that I'm not sure of the length, I can click and drag till I'm satisfied with where I want to place it before I let go. When I click enter, so now I have another set of joints added to this one, which is now being controlled by the top joints here. So it's very straightforward. Just click and continue. What if I have another joint chain here? And I want to join it to this one, because I can't be clicking and join them together. It won't work that way. To just keep building and continue, because this is a different joint chain now. So one of the things you can do is select the two joints and then you join them, you add them, or you can say connect them together. So there is a settings for the connection. You can connect joints or parent joint. Parent joint means when you connect them based on the last one I selected, it should be the parent of the previous one, or you just connect the joints together to add one more bone that will continue the two of them. So right now, the direction of these bones are kind of weird, because this guy is coming to this point, this one is coming to this point. So they are obviously going to have a clash. So you may want to go from here and connect this one to join them. So you can connect them that way, and you see the two of them are now connected. So this one now becomes the controller of all of them, and this one becomes a joint on the joint chain on its own. Okay. So the order, like I said, the order of direction is very important. Oh, I think I did something weird there. Yeah, I mistakenly went to. Yeah, I went to duplicate it. I press Alt. So, all right. So we have those kind of connections there. Now, what if while doing what I did, I've created this joint chain, but I want this guy, this particular joint now, right now, this is the root joint, joint 7. That's the root connecting all this guy. What if I want this one to be the root? I've already made this joint, the root, but Maya allows us reroute our joints so that this one can now be the root, then this one will be springing off. So what will happen is this triangle will flip to face this other joint, meaning this guy now becomes the chairman of this other of everything here. So what you want to do is select that joint that you want to be the root and reroute the skeleton to that point there. So, or you can even change the orientation of your whole joint. So like now, I've rerouted the skeleton and you can see that the arrow has flipped. It's now pointing this way and this way, meaning this is a joint chain, this is another one coming from this root. So that is how you reroute a joint. You can change orientation of a joint by reorienting it. So if the direction was coming, you just flip all their reorientations, but it doesn't change uh, the individual roots unless from the extreme and stuff like that. So creating joints are very simple. They're just direct. Just click and create a joint chain. That's that's easy, right? It's clear, quite clear. Okay, I was talking about IK, not Ikechukwu though, but IK. What does IK? What does IK mean? We we see it in when we click on the joint. What do you say? I know. Jesus, Mike, Mike Larry. IK stands for inverse kinematics. So inverse kinematics. The primary word there is kinematics. Inverse is the opposite of what one of the kinematics does. So we have two kinds of IK. Um, we have forward kinematics and we have inverse kinematics. So I'm going to show the difference between the two of them. So what I'm going to show you now will help you understand why they are used in rigging and why they are so important for any model that you will be creating. Um, let me create a cube. So we have forward and inverse kinematics. Forward kinematics is FK, not the FK in your mind, Michael. So, because I know you have a very weird mindset. So, okay. So please take note of what I want to teach because this one will help you in your modeling. Forward, R is the way I write my R. When I'm writing fast, I write my R like this. But if I'm writing slow, this I write my R. So it's like forward, like forward, upward and forward. Okay, forward kinematics. What forward kinematics works on is rotation. It works on rotation and it basically targets your joint chain from the highest points. That's basically from the top of the hierarchy, for instance. So if I want to move this bone, I can select this whole joint chain and move it. If I need to carry, maybe this was somebody and I want to put the leg on top of here, like you lift up the knee and put it here. For forward IK, I will have to select the knee, lift the knee, and put it there, like that. But there's a problem with this. As I'm moving, you notice I can reduce the length of the lap or increase the length of the lap, which becomes a problem. So forward IK is the default motion of your skeleton or your rig. That's the default motion of your rig because every bone is just connected to themselves based on whoever is on the top hierarchical level. So it's important to understand how they move by understanding the direction of the flow of the bones. So this is just forward kinematics, the way the bones are hierarchically set up. Now, the second one is inverse kinematics, which is kind of the reverse of what this one does. IK works with, FK works with rotation, good. Inverse kinematics works with position. So this one works with the rotation of how I keep these legs. That is how I rotate the angles of the joint. That's how it's going to go. Inverse kinematics works with positioning and is in the reverse order. Forward kinematics works from the top of the hierarchy. Inverse kinematics works with the bottom of the hierarchy. So let's say I want to create IK for this. This is the icon for IK, this third one here. Or under skeleton, you can create IK handle, right? So there are two of them. Let me just show. There's the single chain solver and the rotate plane solver. Basically, we'll say SC and RP solvers. That's your business. So solvers are single chain solvers. Rotate plane solvers are there. We use both of them in modeling. RP solvers, where they are used, is for shoulder joints and hip joints if you are doing a character. Single chain solvers will be used from ankle to toe or wrist to fingers, those kind of basic stuff because of the way they operate. So let me just create a single chain solver first of all. And with my IK selected, I need to select, first of all, what is the hierarchy? What's the first bone in the connection, which is this guy? What is the bone that I want to control that hierarchy? This guy. Once you click that, you see Maya kind of creates this thread. So this star-like thing, that's the IK handle. You can see my outline now. I now have an IK handle. To carry this leg here, notice how easy it will be, and watch the way this bone will behave. Notice how it's lifting and it's acting like a real leg. More, it's not stretchy. Now, even if I say I want to make a kick out of this guy, I can kick it cap, and that's where it stops. So it kind of locks. So even if I move more than that, the bone doesn't move. So then it can come back. Tap. So bringing it back. So it's basically working with position. Wherever I carry the solver, that's where the whole joint chain goes. So, but for kinematics, I want to make a kick. You need to carry, first of all, rotate this leg to the position of where the kick would be. Then come here, rotate this one, and then you make the kick. Otherwise, anything about movement you do, you are going to stretch the bone. Okay? So, yes, inverse is better when it comes to joint movement, but both of them are used. In your rig, your skeletal rig, you're going to use both of them. Actually going to use both of them. It's not every time you use IK. Like imagine you're trying to turn the head of somebody. There's no IK there because the head turning does not control anything else. So in a character, the IK will only be used on the hands and the legs. You won't use it on the spine. For the spine, you will use the normal forward kinematics. So you won't use an IK handle for that. For the neck, same thing. For the head, same thing. Okay, so you use both of them, but it's just important to know when to use them. Okay, are we cool? Amir, are you practicing it as I'm doing? Okay, because we're going to do classwork. We're going to create. I'm going to use the bunny. We'll create one line of skeleton, and then we're going to create it, and then we're going to bind it and see how it plays, how it dances, or how it whatever. Probably we'll create a cycle, walk cycle. Okay, so that's kinematics for that. So in this selection here, I want to see something. There's this thing that says snap enable and sticky, right? Snap enable and sticky are quite important here. So looking at this guy, let's see which one is better. Which one was clearer? I think I should leave it back on that guy. Okay. Looking at this guy, this is where my IK is. This star shine here, and this is where the bone is. So if I'm lifting this bone, you notice the IK handle is snapped to the bone. right, to that structure is not being separated from that structure. So now, if I create a IK handle and turn off snap enable, I'll still do the same thing. Click, click. It creates the IK handle. It still does what it needs to do. But if I select the bone and move the bone comes out of the IK. See the IK here. So the bone is not attached to the IK. That's the point. But if I select the IK, I can still do what I need to do, right? But the bone is not attached to the IK. So, right? So you doing snap, creating a bone without snap enable is not really a good idea. The second one is sticky. Sticky. Yes. I want you to see how sticky it is. Imagine if this was a character and he was jumping. It's not really because it's not from the IK handle you will change. It's from the bone itself. So it's not really realistic, right? It's just jumping. I have to jump it and come and do all the stuff here. Good. But if I select this guy, turn on sticky, and click this and click this. Now watch what happens. It's working like a normal IK, right? Perfect. Now watch what happens when I select the bone and I want to make him jump. Hmm? So sticky creates a kind of like a tag or a bullet wherever the IK was instructed to be. So when you move the bone to different directions, it's trying. Mhm. So it's yeah. Don't worry, you will get over it. So TJ, don't run in that. You've been animating since he hasn't. Let him let him do all his yeah. But you should not be too what is the word? Yeah, don't be too it's not bullet science, rocket science. So, but just understand the concept here is I want you to understand why these things are so that when you have your character, you know why they are behaving the way they are behaving. Okay, so naturally. So that's how IK handles work, and that's why we use them inverse kinematics. So, yep. Okay, let's see. So this was single chain solver. It basically just creates a single chain connection. But the RP solver, rotate plane solver, it rotates it precisely rotates the chain of that's a chain of connection basically. And why that is important for leg and shoulder movements is the hip joints and the shoulder joints, they have a form of rotation, right? Not just up and down. They have a form of y-axis rotation, if we would call it. And with a single chain, um, with a single chain rotating, it will rotate the chain, but not to a precise degree of placement. Like as I'm rotating the chain now, it's not really guiding the angle where this leg is going to focus on, or where this knee basically is going to focus on. Because sometimes when you bend your character, you adjust the knees to rotate to a particular angle to smack up to whatever you've been doing. So, but that's why they create or create um, the RP solver. So if I come here and change to the RP rotate plane, turn off sticky, do the same way I did with this guy, it creates a chain, but now you have this kind of ring on top here with a directional point pointing at a particular angle where it should face or where the solver should face. Now, if I rotate this guy, you can see nothing is happening to the leg because that's just that solver. To activate rotation for this, I need to rotate this ring here. And I can't select the ring like this. Once I click outside of the chain solver, I don't get that ring anymore. So how we get this ring is to use a specialized transform tool, which we will find under our modify, the modify tab. We have transformation tools. What we want is the universal manipulator kind of. All these other ones are the ones we have here: the move, rotate, scale. This one is type manipulator for text. So universal manipulator is the one that will basically use. It has uh, it kind of has all of them combined into one, right? And controls almost everything, including locators on your in your design. So if I click on that, it shows me the gizmo right at the rotation plane, and then it's not the orbit tool or the rotation tool I'm going to use. It's just this move tool. And once I move, you can see I can use a specific plane to rotate my object based on the axis of that circle of the RP. So it helps because of that connector. And since this guy is going to be rigged with a controller, you want to have him move around the boundaries of where the controller can manipulate all the objects. So that's why we use this one for shoulder and leg control. Because in reality, you will not go to the bone and rotate the bone. There will be an indicator on the knee, a locator on the knee. Wherever that locator moves to, the knee should follow. So this rotate plane will be very active to pointing towards that knee compared to just the IK single chain solver itself. But either way, if you like the stress, you can still use the single chain. Both of them are still good anyway. Okay, I think that is cool with the cool and the gang. And we have that on, right? That's good, right? So I'm going to open up that our guy, Bunny. Hey, Bunny. How are you, Bunny, Bunny? Bunny, 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 Bunny. We're going to rig Bunny now. So first thing, I want to hide the image planes. I'm going to hide them. So I'll select them and H the keyboard to hide them and turn on the X-ray. I actually don't need my perspective view. It's not a priority in rigging. Like what's a priority in the rigging? It's front and side view mostly. I want to switch to two views here. This guy. Change this one to side, the graphic side. So this is what we're going to use to rig this guy. Okay. First of all, let me turn it to one. All right. So to rig, I want us to turn on uh, under shading, or if your screen is wide enough, you can click on this third icon here. But under shading, I want us to turn X-ray joints, not X-ray, X-ray joints. X-ray joints will make it that once you create the rig, you can still see the joints even though they are inside the object. So X-ray joints for both of them. Make sure X-ray joints is turned on. Okay. Okay. I'm going to go to my bone structure for creating the rig. Typically, people start creating rigs from the leg, and then they create the spine and connect the legs to the spine. So anywhere you want to start from, make sure the spine or the roots of your spine is the primary roots for the whole skeleton in the body. Nothing else can be the roots of the skeleton. Not the chest, not the diaphragm, not the head. Every other thing is routed through the spine. Just like a human being's body, every bone is connected to the spine. So same thing with our structure here. So we'll start with the legs. These bunny's legs are simple. So we'll just make a connection of, let me turn on wireframes and shaded so that I can see the lines here. So basically want to create your first point, and because it's the legs we're working on first, you want to make sure the first point is starting from top. Don't start from under and go up. Start from top and come down. Hierarchy, very important. So my first leg joint will be along this line, probably. So somewhere along here. So I want you to see what's happening here. Watch, look at the radius of this bone. Compared to my model, is it good or is it too big? The radius of that bone, is it too big or is it good? I think it's very big. It's quite big because then when you create the knee joint and you create the leg joints, we'll have a very funny looking big set of bones there. So that joint or this bone radius is very big. So that's why I talked about the radius of your bone, changing it depending on the model you're working. So right now, the radius of my short bone length is 1, and I mean 0.3, and the long bone radius is 1. So since these are short bones, I can reduce this 0.3 to, let's say, 0. Let me do 15, 0.15, and yep. So if I click now, the bone is a little bit more understandable compared to what I had before. After you do any setting on these guys, on this your stuff, make sure for another modeling you reset to. If not, the way it was, that's how it will be for any other new project you start. So always reset your tool and you're done. So I think I'm fine with this 0.15. And then I create my knee. Normally, you want to have a curve between the hip, the knee, and the ankle or feet. This is one of the simple models. So I'll make this the knee, put the point here. Then I'll put this for the ankle somewhere at the tip here, maybe at the bottom of the feet here. So I have this kind of bend. The reason why you need this bend is so that the IK can work properly. If the IK doesn't see that bend, it won't work properly. Now I'm going to hit enter. So by default, when you create your joint, it's always going to be in the center of the screen. So just move it to the point of the leg. And like this, our leg that is kind of like this, I want to rotate this to match that line. That's a line of the leg there. I want to rotate that leg that way. So using the FK methods, if you have to make adjustments, remember just select the hierarchy and adjust the hierarchy. Just that. If you want to make any adjustment, select the hierarchy and adjust the hierarchy. So that's the benefits of the FK. Use it to adjust whatever adjustment you make. Now, if you want to make bones for the next side, let's do some housekeeping. Make sure you do this every time. It's tedious, but trust me, to be more tedious if you mirror the joints and you have a lot of joints to mirror. You have to now rename two things. Rename your joints as you are making them. So now I've made this joint for the left side of this rabbit. So I'm going to rename this joint. There are three of them. So this one will, you can add the name left before the original name. I'll show you why you should. But just add, you can add left or L, whatever it is. So this is left hip, and this one will be L knee, and this one will be, I'm using underscore L foot. In the naming structure of Maya, it doesn't allow you to keep spaces. So anytime you write a word that has space, it will just automatically add an underscore for you. So I have L hip, L knee, L foot. Are we good? I'm here. You done? Oh, you're still going? Okay. Which direction is this bone actually working, or the axis station? But let me see if I can view it and you guys can see it. Look at this bone. I've zoomed in. At least you remember the colors now of our axes, right? So if we look at the bone, can you see the color of the axis? You can see the color of the axis, right? You can see that the orientation, just like we told the software, the top of the bone is facing X, axis. Then the side of the bone is the z-axis. The y-axis for the bone now is acting like my z-axis for the wall. So that means, what plane is this my bone actually on now? If its x-axis is up and the z-axis is to the side, what plane is it that you think this bone cannot move in or should not move in? Y, right? Good. So that means if I want to mirror this bone, I have to use the plane based on that selection there. So this is the mirror tool in Maya. Under skeleton, you have mirror joints. So it's good to check the settings, because by default, your settings, let me reset this. By default, it's set to XY. And XY looks reasonable because, yeah, based on my design here, is X and Y, right? But this XY is the world view. When I created the bone, X was the primary axis. So, and like I zoomed into the bone and showed you, the X axis is the one pointing towards the bone's Y direction. And the Z axis is the one pointing towards the X direction of the world. So watch what happens now. Let's say I do XY and apply. See how the bone will be. I've made a copy, but see where it came. On the same leg, just went the other way around. That's because we didn't create this bone based off the world axis. We created the bone. The bone had its own axis. Remember, when we selected the bone, we have the primary axis as X. So X now for the bone is the world's y-axis. Okay. So if I want to mirror the bone, this bone, my left hip, what I will be using is that axis that made that X the primary bone. So I'll be going for the YZ. Now, see why I label this guy left hip, left knee, left foot. I want it to mirror the bone, but I also want Maya to rename the new bones. I don't want to have to go and name them myself. So I'm going to say search for anywhere I typed L and underscore and replace it with R underscore. So if it's making a new set of bones, it should call it right hip, right knee, right. Once I do that, you look at Maya now creates a mirror with the new names R hip, R knee, R foot. I didn't have to rewrite it. Right? Are we good, Amir? You good? You understand? Chatije, you think you should understand? But let me not assume. So now I've mirrored that joint and automatically given it the right names, because Maya changed every name that had L to R. And remember, that our car model, that's what was done. If you look at all the doors, all the tires, they were mirrored so that the names now had to change based on, look for wherever left wheel, front wheel, back wheel, change it to this one. And then it just changed the names. If not, all the naming structure on those cars were plenty. Okay, now I want to create the spine, and we'll create a new bone structure. For the spine, you can use the front view or the side view, anyone that connects. But we're going to create up to the head for this one. So I can use a top view, create where I think the spine should start. So I create a point here. I'm using this middle line to divide it. So I create a point here, create a point here for the abdomen, create a point here for the, okay, let me use this. This is a very detailed model. For the chest, create one for the neck, create for the nose, and create for the tip of the head. Just here and press enter. Now I use my FK for spine. Spines are never straight. They're kind of always bending. So for the first part of the spine, I want it to be here towards the outside. Actually, it should be inside. Then this one, I can make it here. Then this is the chest. So this is the chest. So one of the simple ways to get to your bone hierarchy is your up and down key. I want to get to the spine roots, I go up in hierarchy, down in hierarchy, changes to the next key, and I can move forward or backward depending on where I want the body to be. And then the neck, then the bone and the head structure. So this one is just perfect the way it is. I want to add some extra bones. I didn't create a tail for this guy, but I want a tail here. So let me just create a tailbone. So I'll go up in hierarchy to this particular joint and create another bone from there to this point for the tail. Move um, up in hierarchy, and I want to create a point for this abdomen here. Then move up in hierarchy, and then I want to create one for the chest here. Then I move up in hierarchy, and I want to create one for the nose here. Then I press enter so that I have created a kind of link between this and this bone, this abdomen, and wherever I want the tailbone to be. So I can just come in here and rename them. So this first part of the joint will become a spine. The second part will become abdomen. Then the abdomen connects to the chest, which connects to the neck, which connects to the head, and then the head has the last connection, which is uh, the tip, head tip. This one will be the nose. Uh, this one will be chest tip. This one will be the butt, and this one will be abdomen tip. Right, abdomen tip. Okay, so with all these connections, this guy is ready to dance, except for the fact that the leg joints are not connected to the spine, and neither do I have a hand joint at the moment. So let me connect the hand joint first. That would be on the chest. From the chest bone, I want to create hand connections there. So I select chest, and then move to where the clavicle will be or end, so somewhere here. And then from there, I can create the elbow, and then I can create the tip. Since this one doesn't have fingers, so it's just going to be very simple stuff. Now, because this one is the hand, I want to make sure that, let me do L, shoulder, since I'm going to mirror it, elbow, and L, hand. So because this guy is on the hand, I want to also look at it. I can't see it well from the side view, so I have to change to the top view so that I make sure that the hand is placed well. So I can use my move to move this guy forward, because I also want there to be a curve between the shoulders and this guy. I can hide this here so that I'll see the elbows I'm looking at. So this is the elbow. Yep. The shoulder. Let me get the shoulder out. Shoulder should be a little bit forward. Elbow should be backward. This guy should be forward. All right. So let me go back to my side view. Right. So I just turned off my rabbit's ear. So let me bring it back up. Where did I keep it? Oh, gosh. Okay. Was it on the head? Yep. No. Yep. Yeah. So see what naming's got to do with this guy. Okay. Okay. All right. So now that I've created this hand, same thing that we did with the legs, I'll just go and mirror the hand. So where the heck are you? There you are. So mirror the skeleton joints, and then the hand is mirrored next side automatically. But like I said, the leg joints are not connected to the spine. So two ways that we can do that. You can either drag it manually inside or do the normal parenting method. Select each of these bones, select the spine last, and then press P to parent them. Once you parent them, naturally a joint connection is made from the spine, since they are now children of the spine. The abdomen, the left hip, and the right hip are now children of one spine. Okay. So this guy can move on his own, but if the spine moves, it moves all of them. The spine rotates, it rotates all of them. So definitely. So that's how we get this structure down. Let me add my tail. Are there any questions? Amir, don't tell me your head is on that table. Me and you will have big problems. Problems that nobody will be able to solve. No divine being. Yes. Okay, I've put my tail there, connected. All right. All right, so I'm done with the skeletal part. Now is to add the IK for the connections. So let's add the IK. So we want to add IK. Remember I said for the, you can use single chain or rotate plane for the legs or the shoulders, but preferably you want to use the RP, that is rotate plane, so that you can control the rotation of the IK chain from there, even though it's still going to move like normal. So you control the rotation from the hierarchy, top of the hierarchy, not from the bottom of the hierarchy. So I'll create an RP solver, double click on the IK chain, on the IK tool, choose rotate plane solver. And like I said, creating IK is very simple. Select the first bone and the last bone in the hierarchy. So if I select this and I select this, it creates a rotate plane solver. So I think I should reduce the radius of that. So let me see. Uh, all right, I don't really do anything. It's not even going to show. Right. And then I go to G, select the next leg, one, two. Then G, next shoulders, and G, shoulders, and. So that's where we are using the solvers for this guy. Oh yes, we didn't make bone for the ears. So I'll just quickly make bone for the ears now. That should be connected to should be connected to this same bone here, not the tip of the head. Right, so let's get that bone that's here. I want to create one bone that will run from here to the ear. So where are you? From head, and I need one, I need two, probably just three. Just one, two, and three. One on the top. Okay. So I'll use forward kinematics to change their position. Something like that. This one should come higher. I think that's where the change is. And so for this one, I'll put an IK chain, but I'm not going to use rotate plane. I'm going to use the normal, let me just press here, left ear. I'm going to mirror this first of all. Mirror it to the next part of the ear, and then change it. That's changed to right ear. So for the IK chain, I want to create normal SC, so single chain. So I select the top of the hierarchy and I select the bottom of the hierarchy. And then press G, select the top of the hierarchy, bottom of the hierarchy. Good. So this is why I did that, so that when I move the IK handle for this ear, it moves the ear in the direction I want it to go. And this one's the hands also will move based on their direction. Hmm? Are we cool? Are we okay? Is it looking complex? Hmm? Anybody? Let me hide this geometry. This is what we have. Let me hide my grid. So this is my IK solver. So you can see the hand. The elbow is bending, but because of the rotate plane, it's controlling how the hand is moving. It's not just moving freely and anyhow. Okay. Same thing with the legs. The legs have full control of movement, but the rotation plane allows it to maintain where it is. The ears have their own controls as well, can move along same axis. All right. So with absence of any constraints, let's move on. Now that we have this connection, we have the bone connection and everything intact. Wait a minute, where is that tail I created? Tail should be part of the body. Bring you to the torso. All right. So I'm going to label these IK handles. This is left leg, left leg. This is right leg. Uh, this is left hand. Oyibo? What is that? I'm hot-blooded. I'm hot-blooded. Left hand IK. Right hand IK. This is a what? Left ear. Right ear. Okay, so I've labeled all those guys. So this is one step. This is rig. This model doesn't have facial features where we're going to have to create eyes rolling or nose twitching or mouth opening and closing. If we did, we will have to create bones for each muscle that is going to be twitched, like on the face, for instance. We have a lot of face. We create a lot of bones for the face, so that when rigging it, or when rigging it, you can move the jawline, the cheeks, the eyebrows, and stuff like that. When rigging, like I said, your primary objective is not to play with the geometry itself, but to play with the rig. So the other way you can do animation is by creating blend shapes. Blend shapes is you create different poses of the face: smiling, happy, talking, shouting, angry, sad, crying, all the different shapes of the face, and then create a blend shape like a tool which you can change between those shapes in by just dragging a slide. Okay, so I will show that one on a model that has face structure. One of the models that I gave you as dummy, so you can use it and build your own next. Okay, so since we are not going to be touching this guy, generally, we won't really be touching him. We need to create controls that we will be touching instead. So we have ways to create controls. But let me just show you that even though this skeleton, as you are seeing, is looking very rough, we are seeing all the skeletal bones. Skeletons are basically splines. So if I come here to render this, okay, let me use an old renderer. Let me just add a light. If I come to render this option here, or this rabbit, I won't see those bones. I won't see those IK handles. All I'll be seeing is the geometry. So the bone structure, though mine has is looking messy, it's not actually going to show here. So that's a good thing. And I don't know this guy. That's a good thing. So even when you're creating controls now for the objects, you have to create controls using spline objects, spline tools. So I think for today's class, I will just create the controls, show you how to create the controls, and then tomorrow's class we'll create a walk cycle with this rabbit. So what I want you to do is there's a in the file I gave you there's one this thing. There are two physical characters. There's a fit man, there's a slim girl inside. So you can pick one of them and practice what we just did here. Otherwise, you can hide what you've done so far in class and redo it again and make sure you get the structure well. Okay, so the, let me show you how we create um, controls. We create controls and then we use targets like constraints to them. So we're going to go to curves and surfaces, and you want to pick a curve. So for instance, like this circle, I want to use this circle as a control, this guy. So I'll probably keep the circle somewhere like this under his hand. Okay, so this should be top view. I'll keep the circle under here, something like this. And the sole purpose is if I'm moving the circle to be controlling that IK handle. So the way it will do that is by creating a constraint. We have constraints here. Since I'll be controlling the position of this IK handle, since it's positioning that moves this IK, I'll be controlling positioning. I want the circle also to control the positioning of the IK. So watch these constraints. I think let me hide these guys again so it's easier to see. I don't know which one is brighter. Okay, let me use this bright screen so it's easier to see the lines here. So in under my constraint menu, I have certain constraints. We've not used any of these constraints, but we'll start using them from tomorrow, today and tomorrow. We have parents, point, orient, scale, aim, pole vector, rivets, motion paths, and other constraints here. The ones that we want to use or I will majorly focus on for our training, there are 4 of them. We'll do the point, the orient, the aim, the pole vector. The motion paths, we will use it for motion path movements, like creating camera movements or car movement along a path on the road. So, like I said, point constraints, it changes the position just like with a single chain or with the FK stuff. So I want to create a point constraint between this circle and this guy. So the order of arrangement is you select the constrainer first. That's the object that will control, or the controller, and then we select the constraint, which is the IK handle. It's not the bone, remember, it's the IK handle. So that is the one that I want to control. So it will be the one I select last. Then under points, I click on these settings to be sure what the settings are. Since it's points and I want to make sure the distance remains the same, I will click on maintain offset. That's maintain that distance. Wherever the circle moves, the hand should follow. So I'm going to click on maintain offset so that all these guys, I don't have to start manually putting in figures. So maintain offsets. Okay. Constrain axis, all axis, any direction I move, let it go in that direction. Once I add, if you notice the IK handle doesn't have any cross or tag here, but once I add a constraint, you notice it now has an addition here. If you click on this, you see it has a point constraint. Meaning if I select this guy now and move it, it is now the one controlling the hand. I don't have to select the hand. In rigging, this is what we do. We create constraints or controllers outside of the object that you use as puppet tools to control the movement. You don't select the objects at all for any reason. So even if I turn these guys back on, right, and I want to move this guy, so that is where the constraint is coming from. So I'll just do another constraint. Oh, let me just leave that constraint and let me let me bind this body to the skeleton so you see it. So this is how to bind. Let me get this guy to be smooth first, like it's smooth. Right. So let's bind. Let me turn off wireframe shaded. To bind the skeleton to the body, we want to select the skeleton first and then the parts of the body last. So I can bind, since this object is 2 separate objects, I can bind it one after the other, or I can bind them together. Doesn't really matter. I can bind the bodies together. So let me just bind them together. So I'll select the skeleton first, which is the spine itself. I hold shift, I select the geometry, which is the body of the object. And then under skin, we have bind skin. There's what we have interactive bind skin. That one is the one where you bind it manually. You tell it where to bind from. I'm going to do bind skin and click on this option here. So we'll see what is binding. What are we doing? Binding based on joint hierarchy? Yes. Closest distance, not bad, not a bad idea. Just look for the closest distance. Anything that's closest to that bone, bind it. Skinning method classic. Let's just go with the classic linear. Uh, if you don't want to use closest distance, you can do geodesic voxel if you want to. So, but let me leave it at closest distance. Blah 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 blah. All these ones I'll leave. Maximum influences. What that means is based on where the joint is, all the vertices around that joint, how many vertices can it influence apart from the vertices around it? So this is not a very detailed model. So I'm reducing the influences to 3 so that it doesn't go and join what I didn't send it to join. And we'll leave the other ones the same way. Now, once we apply, it has created a bind. How you know it has created a bind is when you notice your skeleton has changed color. So now let's try our control movement. So you can see it's now moving this hand. But notice this point here. As it's moving, it's dragging this part of the body along, right? That's an issue, right? That's where we now do paint weights. We reduce the influences. The reason why it's doing that is the influence between this joint and this face here. So I can come in, still under my skin, we have paint skin weights, this guy here, this option. So I'm going to paint skin weights. I'm going to go into the options and I want to select the bone that is connecting this place. So the spine generally. Now I can see all the spine, all the joints and everything. I can open up the spine. I can select, I think it's the hand generally. So where's the hand? Like shoulder. Good. So I want to paint the width of my left shoulder. I want to replace, I want to use, probably use a color map or stuff like that. So on this geometry or on the body of the object, I can now see, based on this green line or this green arrow here or green section here, I can see what is being affected by that joint that I selected. So here I can reduce the value from 1 to 0, 0 meaning don't affect, and paint off those places so that the joint doesn't, the hand doesn't move with that head. You can see where the elbow is affecting, you can see where the shoulder is affecting and stuff like that. So whatever you don't want, you paint it at the value of 0 so that it's not being affected. And you need to rotate around and go and get it. I don't really want any parts of the head to be affected by that joint. So I just need to position this guy so I can get the vertices. You're painting on the vertices now, not on the faces. Go around that. I'm using a color map or a color ramp so that it's easy for me to see. Red is maximum influence, blue means minimal influence, black means no influence at all. So I'm trying to target black. For getting black, I need to really get this vertex out of the way. It's very tricky to get all those vertices. Double tap. Okay, so let me just go to um, the geometry on the body because there was a part of the body that was moving to um, where's the torso? Okay, so this part of the body was moving too. I don't want it to influence that part of the body at all. Uh, bum, 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 bum. It just affect his hand. The hand that is controlling should not affect the body in any way. Okay, right. Um, so, so it takes quite some positioning to get the vertices the way it understands them. Okay, so with these few ones I've done so far, I have reduced the maximum level of influence from green to blue, which is less influence. So if I select this guy and move him now, you see that the influences are reducing until I get that blue completely out. So let me get that blue completely out. Really don't like that blue. Where's the bone? Left shoulder. Look at this blue out. Don't want any influence at all. Um, no, it's basically painting. I think I should let me take this guy back to uh on smooth mode and make it harder. Then make it harder. But the software can read. Because it was smooth, it's kind of reading it harder than if it was rigid. Mhm. One joint here. Okay, so let me work with this one. All right. So that guy at the bottom there. Okay, I've not cleaned the elbow, sorry. Uh, I only clean the right. Right. So I've dysfunctioned this guy. Let me show you how it's going to clean up this elbow, left elbow. So this is the elbow that's giving me that issue. So you notice as I'm cleaning off the influence, the guy is taking out it's being or readjusted back to its normal uh, geometric form. So this is what painting of weight does. Whenever you bind skin of an object or of your model, you want to be sure that the influences of a particular joint bind is not affecting the wrong uh, geometric geometry in the. Let me go this way. Right. Head, head, shoulders. Right. Let me clean this guy up. This one. Okay. Then torso. That's a lot of influence here. So height. The Google Classroom. Yeah. You have my number. Okay. Send me a hi and I'll send. All right. 11:59 on Tuesday. Yes, this Tuesday. So you can. No problem. I will come to you. So you can see I've removed the paint weight. So now the hand can move without affecting the head and the body. So anytime you bind the skin, that's one thing you should check. Test your bind. Make sure it's not influencing where it's not supposed to influence. And this is a reason why we always look for models, like I said, in C stance, because even in C stance, you still have situations where something is bound. Why this one was binding is the head is very big, so it's kind of too close to the hand, so it was being influenced. It was influencing that part of the head. But now that we've painted the weight off, it's no longer influencing that part of the head. So you always want to make sure you do that. Otherwise, you have level where the hand will move, the body will twitch with the hand will fold inside. All those kind of. Sound like I say GTA now, but now come and become. All right. Are there any questions? That man at the back has his head on the table since. Not not Michael. Because you are going to do this week and you are going to wait it. And I'm going to see it tomorrow. So how I'm asking, are there any questions? Because we are going to actually replicate. Remember, I said we are going to do this on this as we have built the rig already. Add all these stuff that I just added. Create controls. I create controls for one hand, create controls for the other hand, and the legs too. So that and use points control. Just do those simple ones. Tomorrow we'll do more controls, but do the simple ones. I'm going to check it tomorrow, and I don't want to hear NEPA took like dog ate my assignments. All those funny excuses. It's not now. So make sure you do them. Okay. Right. So I'm going to save. Don't control S your work. Or do save increments or save it as something. Otherwise, previous work will have done. But you can practice. So I'm just going to increment or save. Let me do save scene as. So Bunny big. Yeah, ADIM. It's ADIM. Yes. So with absence of questions, we'll call this today.